You're having a.
Well, we weren't online.
No. Very good. Good.
Oh.
Are we good?
We're good. Lynn would go ahead.
Right. So it's 6:27. Time to start the Park Operations Committee. For a second time, turn it over to him and Julie. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Kim Eckert, Division Director, Park Operations. We just have one Masterbrook grant proposal tonight from Great Falls Reston Soccer Club. With that, I'll turn it over to Julie Tahan, excuse me. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, Chairman and members of the board. As Kim mentioned, we have a Masterbrook grant request from the Great Falls Reston Soccer Club for a project at Lake Fairfax Park in the Hunter Mill District. Great Falls Reston Soccer Club has been a longtime partner in the county's Adopt a Field program. They currently hold adoption agreements for fields at Barron Cameron Park, Grand Hamptons, and Great Falls Nike Park. Over the past 2 decades, the club has received 4 Masterbrook grants totaling $60,000 for field improvement projects at Great Falls Nike Park. Relative to these projects, the club has invested more than $900,000 for field improvements valued at more than $1.3 million. Now, the club wishes to invest once again in public athletic field infrastructure, this time at Lake Fairfax Park. For the proposed project, the club plans to install fencing along portions of fields 1 and 4 at Lake Fairfax. Currently, there's no fencing around either of these fields. The purpose of the fencing will be to contain balls within the field of play and prevent them from rolling downhill and on into the roadway. For visual context, the project location within the park is shown on this aerial view. The 2 project areas are the rectangles marked 4 and 1. And here we see a closer view of the fields. We've marked up the project area to show where the fencing will go. The proposed fencing is shown in black. So starting at the top of the image, you have field 4, which will have fencing installed behind the goals at both ends. Field 1 will be fenced on 3 sides with one long side left open, since ball containment isn't as much of an issue there. For field 4, the project plan calls for installing 120 linear feet of 20-foot high chain link fence and 240 linear feet of 10-foot high chain link fence. Field 1 will have the same amount of fencing just described, plus another 402 linear feet of 10-foot high chain link fencing along one length of the field. For access, there will be 3 4-foot wide openings with 8-foot wide wings behind the openings. For both fields, underground utilities will be marked and located before work begins. The project, if approved, will be managed by the club through our contract vendor, Long Fence. Now we come to our snapshot of the PROSA analysis performed by staff in the Park Authority Planning Branch. It was determined that this project does not fulfill any of the PROSA components. The benefit of the project is that it will improve safety by keeping balls out of the roadway. However, it won't do anything to improve access to parks for residents of opportunity areas or high-density areas, nor will it enhance complete park experiences or enrich habitat connectivity. At the same time, there's nothing about this project that will reduce access or diminish the complete park experience or impair habitat connectivity. So that could mean that this project has a neutral impact on PROSA. In any case, the Park Authority will take this project into account when prioritizing future projects that come under consideration. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a quick look at the project budget and funding. The total project cost is roughly $66,000. If approved, the project will be funded by a donation of just over $46,000 from the club, combined with the $20,000 Masterbrook grant. The fiscal impact of this grant, if approved, will be $20,000 from the 2020 Park Bond Construction Fund. The resulting balance in bond funding that is currently available for the Masterbrook grant program will be just under $578,000. So just to wrap up here, the staff recommendation is to approve a $20,000 Maston Brook grant to Great Falls Reston Soccer Club to implement the Lake Fairfax Park Fields 1 and 4 fencing project presented here. Are there any questions? Any questions or points of discussion?
Bill,
Why, why is Great Falls Reston supervising this project and not us?
With each application for a grant request, the group applying for the grant chooses whether they wish to manage the project or have the park authority manage the project. In this case, the group chose to manage the project.
We have a choice.
I believe our staff, if they felt it was in the best interests of the project, having staff manage it, they would say so, and that would be part of our recommendation.
I think the group works very closely with us, so we're getting input regularly.
Okay.
And we're using our vendor,
Right.
so.
And in any case, staff will always have a role in evaluating the project and monitoring it as it runs its course.
we're actually even getting a little bit better value because we're not spending the man hours managing it, right? So, Albina,
I may have missed this, but the one that has just the two borders or the two parts that you're fencing,
Yes.
what's the protection for the,
What is,
so that would be field number 4.
yes, yeah, let me go back. So the field 4 is the one just getting fencing at the ends.
What's happening, what's
Wait,
Those are where the goals are.
Yeah, I would
Where it's
assume-
most likely to be kicked
Yeah,
out
I
of
would
it.
assume that
Okay.
if you're shooting on goal that direction, they would go into the road
okay,
or way deep in the woods.
okay.
On the left,
So
there,
the other sides are not,
No,
that's my.
That's problematic.
on field 4, there's drop offs on both sides of field 4. One's a drop off and roll into the road. On the left side, it rolls into the woods. There's an embankment there and the ball goes down into.
Okay.
how many foot fields, is that diamond field? Between the two,
That's Reston Herndon adult softball for the most
so it's
part.
90.
No, that's a 65
60,
foot, 300 foot fence,
300 foot fence
300 foot fence
in softball.
in softball.
So the likelihood of home runs is not very,
No, the likelihood of home runs is significant. I have hit many home runs
really.
beyond.
It's softball and
That's
three.
why I know it's such a problem, especially on the left side, if you hit foul balls on that softball field, it has the same effect as the left side of field 4. You lose that softball.
That was a nice subtle brag.
It's all, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit off topic, but only because I've had a diamond field taken out in Mount Vernon because of the home run danger of another field. Can that or should that diamond field be oriented so the home runs are not going into the soccer field?
No. They typically don't play at the same time.
Okay.
And it's a heck of a, like I said, if you're oriented to the field 4 actually sits up above the softball. field.
Okay.
There are no
That helps a
lights
little
on
bit.
There's fields, there's lights on all of them,
Okay.
Oh, there is lights.
but field 4 sits up, softball field's down here. So there's a big grading difference on this.
Any other questions?
So I think I'm in the minority on this one. I don't love that this doesn't have any impact, check any of those boxes in the PROSA category, particularly since we just spent, less than a year ago, a couple meetings. Where's the discussion of changing the orientation of the Maston Brook? And while I don't know the financial status of Great Falls Reston, I suspect they could probably cut the check for the entire project cost and be perfectly fine. One of the things we talked about previous, and most of this came from Tim, was looking at some kind of matching fund. That might not be the right terminology, but we were gonna have a project like this, that a similar amount of money was then spent in an equity area. And I know we talked about it and it never really got past the discussion stages, but I would be wondering if staff could do a little bit more finer detail analysis of what that could look like, where the money would come from, how that would work, how much of it, like, is it just a $20,000, or is it this full project is $60-something thousand, is it the full $60,000, and how that might draw down on the overall Mastonbrook or something else. Because I do think with a project like this, you probably need to have a match somewhere else. Otherwise, I'm not sure how much progress we're really going to make on some of our PROSA and equity goals. If a project like this gets approved, with no discernible benefit in any of those categories. If staff could come back to at some point with something that looked at that.
Like,
I actually, when they were going through the pros analysis, I actually thought that projects like this, I think actually do significantly increase I can't remember when you were working through, it was you had a specific one of your tags that was like the playability, the
Complete park.
there's something about the playability or I can't remember what the word
There's
was.
there's the complete parks, there's improving access, there's enhancing access to complete park
It
experience.
was the play, my point would be that literally, this is a huge safety improvement. Having dealt
I
with
mean,
children
I think
chasing
that's a bit
ball,
overstated on this particular part. I
Having-
spend a lot of time at Lake Fairfax playing ultimate frisbee. When you get to that end of the park up there, there's not cars going back and forth all the time. Does it happen? I'm sure it does.
well, I watched a child almost get hit by a car over at Patriot, which doesn't have people going back and forth because a soccer ball went into the parking lot, a kid chased after it, car wasn't looking, which is why back when I was involved with Burke Athletic Club, we did a grant and we paid for putting fencing around Patriot to avoid it going in the woods and kids chasing, all those kinds of issues.
Sure.
So I do think, I think it improves the park itself in terms of the value, the playability, whatever the right word is.
Yeah.
for the value there, in terms of those pieces.
I guess I would ask in response to that, what groups get to use those fields other than Reston?
Allocation information.
There are about 5 soccer clubs that use.
Okay, so more,
that
the
field.
benefit extends beyond the group paying for it. Okay.
The other thing I would say to this, and we don't have it in the PROSA analysis, but this particular organization has a significant scholarship program
Okay.
for kids that can't, and it does bump up right against an opportunity area at Forest Edge Elementary School, which is a quarter mile away. So it does reap the benefits, even though it does not say so
Okay.
on the PROSA analysis.
10 groups.
10 groups. Okay. All right.
Maggie,
So based on this discussion, I think in addition to what Kyle had to say, maybe we need to look at the PROSA analysis so that we can take into account some of these extenuating circumstances. Because as far as I'm concerned, it does look really bad that there's nothing that we can say that helps with our PROSA analysis. And if there are extenuating circumstances like scholarships or it's next to an area, then that needs to be documented. I mean, we're looking at budget cuts, we're looking at a limited amount of money. And I know that we are trying to, push things into opportunity areas. I'm not saying I'm not gonna,
maybe we've actually stumbled into the solution though.
that,
Back to Kyle's point and,
Yes.
was originally Tim's point. When we have a project like this,
yes,
that we want to happen, everybody's in
Sure.
favor of this thing. And it does not check any of the PROSA
boxes.
boxes,
Right.
okay, that's the criteria for shifting the money, matching money somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
That's the criteria, when it does not check any of the boxes.
Right.
So I'm completely with Kyle. staff could take a peek into this a little bit more, but we were having trouble with the measure. How are we gonna do that?
Yeah.
Whatever. So maybe the measure is when it doesn't check
When it
any
doesn't.
boxes.
Now we do this.
Now we do this.
We'll work through it. I think that this is a good conversation to be had, because I don't want PROSA to make it seem like things aren't a good project, just because it doesn't, and I'll pick on Tim just because. You know, Clemmy Johnson Tree happens to be in a very, very wealthy part of the county. That does not mean that we should not renovate Clemmy. So there needs to be a but or an and or a secondary conversation about how we're actually going to be equitable with the decisions, especially for this. We'll come back.
And the
with-
fact that 10 other groups are using this field goes a long way to easing my concerns, because it's not one of the situations where
Right.
it's basically just for the one.
Could I make a suggestion that as we go back and look at these conditions that we have under PROSA, what we need to look at also are those activities we have funded in the past to identify if there's an area we're missing. Because the groups that need our assistance under Mastonbrook are fitting into specific niches.
Well, that's one of the things that we're gonna be doing with our needs assessments and our conditions assessments. And the reality is that in some of the areas, there's conditions, there are things that need deferred maintenance and need work all over the county. And I think that where the equity thing comes in is those things wouldn't necessarily be an issue, places that the groups can afford to fix them. We wouldn't have a broken fence, or we wouldn't have a dugout, or whatever it is in those areas. And so really it's linking that needs assessment and the conditions assessment that we're gonna be doing, and looking at all of those equity areas and seeing what are those, we know what those projects are. We also don't want to not pretend, that's not the right word. We don't want to act as if we don't know that things need to be done until a group tells us that it needs to be done. We know things need to be done. We don't have the funds to do them. Everything, every single year. So this is a really good targeted way of looking at, those list of projects that are in equity areas that are under the same category of fields or dugouts or whatever it is, and not waiting for the groups to be able to come together. It just might not be on their map. So sorry.
I'd like to express a concern though with what we're saying. I think what everybody's saying is correct, but when we originally talked about PROSA, it was a layer of analysis.
Yes.
Yep.
It was not the end all and be all of the analysis.
Right.
So I think it's really important to recognize that while a project may not check these boxes, that shouldn't be the end all and be all of whether or not it meets some need. It was originally set up that this was, so I think the discussion that happened about the other pieces or whatever help fill in and create that full picture of why we had the discussion way back when about PROSA being one step of the analysis, not the whole analysis. So I don't think the lack of checks should be the immediate, oh, wait, it's a problem. I just think that's way we have to look at the other piece of analysis as well.
Nobody's saying it's a problem. They're just looking for opportunities for the other side of the argument. There's nobody here that's saying, don't take $43,000, don't.
I appreciate that, Linwood. I guess what I'm saying is that we are saying that if it didn't, it would kick into these other things, which would imply that this is actually the gateway analysis to make those other things happen. And I'm saying that we should consider a more full analysis, which is what we originally talked about, and not being reliant just on PROSA to do those things. That's all.
I guess my big worry in what we're doing right now is 10 years ago, the discussion was generally, I wasn't here ago, but I know what the discussion was. 10 years ago, the discussion was, how can we find more people to give Mastonbrook grants to? Because the community doesn't know we exist with the Mastonbrook grant. And now we've added another layer. And if the community begins to believe that that layer of PROSA is the initial criteria, then they won't even tell us they need something. They'll just move on to something else.
But I think that we're talking about two different things. I don't think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that Kyle or Tim was saying that we don't do it. Or Linwood, we're just saying if we want to do a match, yes, of course, if it's something, we would come and not be supportive of the project if we didn't think it was a good project. what I think we're saying is looking for a way of saying yes, but to those groups that, instead of waiting for them to come to us, why don't we just go to them? Why don't we just go to those areas that need, help? We're not putting a barrier. We're not saying no to this one, right? We're not saying to say no to this one. We're just saying we might wanna, I don't know.
We
what we're
haven't
saying.
voted on it.
No, I'm just, but what your proposal was, you were saying you're not saying to say no to it and then match.
Says the guy that started his comments with, I may be in the minority, but.
Well, I wasn't sure. I mean, it doesn't sound, it sounds like I mostly, well, I think I probably am closer to no than anyone else here. I don't think I'm there, and I agree with what people have said that it can't be and should not be the only criteria. My concern is if as a board, we have these goals to improve equity in our park system, right? We keep saying that. Here's a project that puts $20,000, however small the amount is, towards a project that checks no boxes related to that. We could,
And would probably be done even without the 20,000.
right, and we could argue over the fact that there might be broader extenuating circumstances, the fact that there's 10 other groups involved, yada, yada, yada. But if we just continue to say yes to things like this and don't look for ways, whether it's Tim's idea or something else, to move forward on the equity piece of this, I question where and how we actually will make progress in those areas. And that's ultimately the root of my concern here.
Didn't we, just so I understand?
Yeah.
Didn't we say that we were going to change, we already changed the criteria to a certain extent?
Yeah.
For the no over $100,000
Correct.
projects.
Right.
So we've at least taken a step towards trying to figure out those pieces.
Yep.
Would
Go
the,
ahead.
Question?
Jeez.
go ahead.
Could you tell me what the other 10 groups are? Because maybe there might be some equity piece lying there.
South Lakes High School. Oh, sorry about that. I'm pretty loud normally. South Lakes, Northern Virginia Coaches League, Fairfax Sports, Washingtonian Soccer, FSC Soccer League, Herndon Youth Soccer, WAGS, Tyson's Premier Soccer League, Fairfax Women's Soccer Association, Black and Red Pumas Impact Foundation. And then, of course, Great Falls Reston Soccer Club.
Hasn't given me a lot of confidence. There's much there, but.
So I mean, Kyle, I mean, I do agree with you, and I wonder, would it be possible to kind of track the, to just kind of have a running track of the Masterman grants in terms of whether they hit our posted targets or not? In other words, we just keep getting updated so that we know, because I mean, we're not gonna, if it's a good project, like maybe we don't, I think your concern is like, what if it's a slippery slope? Like if we approve this project and then the next one doesn't, tick all the boxes, and then it becomes something where we're just basically sleepwalking and it's not, the process objectives are not being met. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could sort of have a yearly review of it or something and just see, or maybe even going back in time might be helpful, just to, go back, the past 5 years or something to look at how much money has been spent in equity areas. And then my second thought is, do we actively outreach to equity communities and groups within equity communities to tell them about the Masterberg grant? Because I'm just wondering if there might be churches or there might be corporate sponsors that, would be thrilled to be able to, I mean, we could even take this, what's just happening with this and say, look, this, we're so excited about this when it happens, but look here, it's in the past 5 years, we've never had a group do this in an equity area. Amazon, would you like to, would you like to do this, build these same kinds of fencing, in this park in an equity area?
I think we could tap our area managers too to help us identify projects that
Oh,
certain
yes.
groups
We know
would
what they
want
are.
to match with this. So the way I'm looking at this is we're still getting tremendous value for the 20,000 that we spent here. The person that applied for this followed our criteria, completely. To me, we should not turn them down, but I'm really, really happy that it has caused this discussion. That I believe we're gonna have a consensus to ask staff to look into this a little bit further to try to figure out all the other things that we've talked about. I'm not gonna repeat them at this point. Productive going forward stuff. So, we're all agreeing, okay, we didn't quite hit it yet. Let's look a little more and see if we can make it hit. a little bit better.
It took me aback when I saw that none of the boxes had been checked. It was,
Right,
it's only because I know this particular group and what it involved that I said, okay, I can live with this, but otherwise, the first thing that struck me was it didn't check any box at all. And
We'll come back with something. I think that the thing that, and I think everybody said,
Well, it showed us
So-
that $100,000 threshold that we put there didn't accomplish everything we wanted it to accomplish, is what this project showed us.
And we
This
had
was a
res-
learning experience for
We had
us.
reserved the right to make further changes, and that's what Kyle has asked staff to take another look, so I think.
Yeah, I,
and Maston Brooks for this are gonna, this is gonna be the norm more than the exception. The only Maston Brook grants, the way that they've gone, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of them are groups, sports groups that come in. So they're not gonna check the other three because we're not creating anything new. Very rarely are they gonna come under that $100,000 threshold for something new. It's gonna be a parking lot to a thing or something. So that's not gonna check any, the only one that would check, most of them would be the equity area, and that, so that would be projects within equity area. So Maston Brook, so we have to do the and with Maston Brook. So I think that we can come back with something, a proposal with something, you know, by the end of the year or early next year.
Anybody else have, I'm sorry.
yeah, I just. Originally, when we started to change the Maston Brook, I was concerned because I didn't want to twist it into a shape that it couldn't fit into. I think what we might find as we look at the Maston Brook is that we have a floor that is not reachable. That the matching itself is what precludes us from getting to that diversity, equity groupings. And what we should be looking at is a straight out grant program.
Except I would modify that in one way. We had a discussion, I mean, it's been a number of years. Where we did say that sweat equity would be matched. So if the community came together and said, we'll do X, and X is valued at $19,312, we're willing to put cash of $19,312 towards that project. In that process, and there was, as I recall, a lot of discussion about, well, is that right? And I think we concluded correctly. Sweat equity is a value. It's great when the community is involved in some way. And so there is a mechanism, and I think one of the reasons, frankly, the sports groups tend to be one of the primary users is because people like me, who, as I was on this board, learned more about, was talking to NCS all the time about, we need to let all the groups know. We have all this stuff going on in the fields where they're concerned about, we need a dugout, we need a this, we need a that, and they can't raise all the money. Let's go figure out, hey, there's this grant. So we talk about it. I mean, it's talked about once, twice a year in front of lots of sports groups. I think it's also discussed with the friends groups. I don't know how much is discussed beyond that in a way that organizationally they can engage with our stuff. And we ought to think about like the sweat equity matching, talking about that more and, you know, things like that.
But also doing a match and having Kim, I'm just gonna say Kim's group identify a project and we just go do it. And we work with the group and say, we're gonna be fixing the dugout or whatever it is. Really? Yeah, we're doing it as part of the Maston Brook. So that's part of the outreach of people then knowing, what is this thing? We can do other projects. Yeah, you can do another project that's not a match type of thing, and that might help everybody know
So,
what's going on.
Okay, at this point, we have successfully
Yeah.
used up all of the allotted time for the next
Okay.
committee meeting. I'm gonna move this one along. Do we have consensus to move this project forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we also have consensus to ask staff to look into further modifications of the Maston Brook program per the discussion?
Yes, absolutely.
Do anybody else have any other business for the Park Operations Committee? Seeing none, I adjourn the Park Operations Committee. Thank you very much, Julie.
Yes.
Ken, it's your turn.
Oh, Sarah's doing.
When used up all my time.
We'll skip your.
Sarah's
committee.
gonna.
Skip that one.
Right, I'll call the budget committee to order. And it looks like Sarah's there.
Hi, I'm standing in for Mike. Mike is in the woods with a bunch of middle schoolers camping, so I know he would rather be here with you, but
All right.
I'm gonna run through the budget presentation. So we're back again this evening for our final discussion before our submission to DMB with our FY 26 proposed budget. Next slide. So the action you'll take this evening will be to endorse or not the non-recommended cuts that we've presented. Next slide. As you have heard in several different meetings, our target for the cut for the Park Authority was approximately 3.5 million, which is 10% of our general fund budget. Slide. So over the last month or so, 3 weeks or so, we've received a tremendous amount of public comment about our proposed cuts. As I'm sure is not a surprise to you, the majority of the cuts were related to concerns with us having to close any nature or historic sites. We know that this would be a tremendously impactful cut if we have to make it. We're hopeful that we don't have to go this route and we don't have to close any facilities as a part of our proposed of a part of the cuts for 26. We received about 120 emails. They're broken down by category in the right-hand side. Some were just about not cutting parks in general. And then most of the rest were related to concerns about the reduction or the closing of our sites. Next slide. So this is the updated non-recommended budget cuts. This reflects the changes that have occurred over the last couple of meetings to show kind of the evolution of cuts. We've taken off the summer entertainment series and increased the reduction related to park maintenance and increased the WPFO, which would impact bond projects. And this is the full list. If you have any questions about this, please let me know and we can move to the next slide. So then the other action this evening will be related to our FY 26 budget requests. Next slide. And as you probably remember from our previous meetings, the budget guidance was pretty specific, and any budget requests for 26 can only be related to the development of new facilities and having to operate those, contract staff increases, and then critical county operations. Next slide. So the budget requests that we're putting forward total about $4.4 million. The first one is related to full implementation of the zero waste and recycling program, which is a mandate from the county. The second one is related to operational budget impacts related to the development or acquisition of new properties and us being able to maintain and operate those facilities and parks. And then the last item, which we are in discussions with DMB, is related to our equity funding request.
Sarah, before you move off that point, you guys, staff, are going in front of the Board of Supervisors to talk about that twice in the next couple of months. Do we know the exact kind of when and format for that?
Sure. So the first meeting will be in October, and that's an update related to the public engagement that occurred after the study was completed. And then the next one will be in January, and that will be related to the implementation of the equity plan, as well as the required funding for each phase of that. And we'll bring those presentations to the park board before they go to the Board of Supervisors.
And it's part of the Board of Supervisors, one of their committees, right?
Correct. HHS,
Okay.
Health and Human Services. Next slide. So this is where we are in the process. Tonight, hopefully we will receive your endorsement on our request as well as our non-recommended cuts. Those will be submitted to DMB, and then the process will move forward with the county releasing their advertised budget in February. Public hearings and deliberation by the Board of Supervisors in March and April, and then approval of the county budget for 26 in May 2025. Next slide. Again, there will be more opportunities for public input through the Board of Supervisors process, as well as individuals can see where we are with the process, and the links are provided here for our budget documents. That's it.
Sarah, all that said, are we able to use this information in discussions with our individual supervisors right now, the way it is?
Absolutely. And I think individual meetings with Board of Supervisor members are also being scheduled.
I think the supervisors are hearing about it, so it's a good idea.
Well, they're hearing about it, but we haven't shown them this detail yet.
No,
or I haven't.
not yet.
Yeah, you're welcome to share this
Okay,
detail
good.
with them.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
And just to, go ahead.
No, I just, are we going back to the first action item?
We have two action items.
So we had two action items that kind of rolled through real quick. Are we doing them together? I mean, I just want to understand the
We'll do 'em
discussion
separately.
process. Okay.
No, I think we just, Ken will ask for consensus on each individually.
Right, so on the first one, my question, and I know that I thought Kyle had a good idea about the summer entertainment series, but one thing that occurred to me is I don't remember, but somewhere in that conversation about the summer entertainment series, I remember somebody saying that something was more expensive to run or manage or do. And what occurred to me was, does it make sense to kind of come up with a number that's somewhat the same for each district? And the only reason I bring it up is if it can save us about $54,000 so that we're not doing, so that we're not doing a continued reduced general park and facility maintenance. That just struck me that we already have enough maintenance issues. I just didn't know if we talked about $109,000 reduction is a 55. I just remember something being expensive. And it just occurred to me that if there's an average per district that's.
So most of the funding for the summer concert series comes through donations. So the actual performers are paid through donations. What it was funded in their general fund budget is the AV and sound for the performances. And then there's a considerable amount that we're not funded for that we absorb. I think it would be worthwhile for us to bring back a presentation on the summer concert series so you can get a full idea of what it's costing us. And maybe through that, we could make some recommendations on next steps with the summer concert series, which may be limiting some in certain districts to make it more equitable.
Yeah, the AV and the mobile stage is expensive.
So the stage is actually covered by the cable fund.
Oh, is
So
it?
we don't
Okay.
pay for that. We don't pay for the staffing for the showmobile.
Other questions?
Just a general comment. I've said something like this before, but to anyone listening tonight or might be listening in the future, obviously, I think it goes without saying that no one here is particularly excited about moving any of these forward, but but it is something we are required to do. The exercise was instigated by the county executive. We are just fulfilling that responsibility as all other county agencies are. He's requiring a list of 10% cuts be put on his desk as he's going through and preparing the fiscal year 26 budget. Just also want to emphasize that we were at the very beginning of this process. We had to put together a 7% cut list this time last year. Not only was the Park Authority not cut at all last year, we ended up receiving additional funds. So there's a long ways to go between now and whatever ultimately happens to us. And I think we do the same thing we did last year in terms of outreach to board members, good community engagement, which we've already seen. I think we'll be in a good position. I think the board of supervisors is aware of some of the maintenance challenges we already have. Much of the money we received last year was related to that. So I don't anticipate they'll be very eager to see maintenance related cuts to us. And all of these that we're putting forward are very painful. I know a lot of discussion has been focused on the concert series. But there's not a single item on that list that anybody really wants to put forward. I think I speak for everybody that the idea of potentially closing a facility, whether it's a nature center or otherwise, is particularly disheartening. But 10% of our budget is a considerable amount of money and is going to impact a lot of things. There's really no way around that. But again, very beginning of the process, there's a lot of public input to be had, a lot of conversations to be had. I don't think anyone should feel particularly defeated at this point or think that, what we're putting forward is what the budget will look like in another, 6 months, however far April is from now.
Ken, and Kyle, thank you for that. Absolutely agree. There is a secondary impact, and that impact is once the county executive makes such a request, then out of prudence, we may decide to not expend funds, not fill positions that may end up being offered as potential, although they may not be taken cuts. That has an impact on our ability to provide services to fulfill our mission to do maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So that message too, it seems to me, should be conveyed to the supervisors when we meet with them, that there is a damaging effect from even having to go through a process such as this. So
Maggie?
Yeah, I just want to also express, I read through a lot of the comments. I haven't gotten through all of them. But everybody does know, but it just shows how much our parks are loved. And also, there were some very creative ideas in some of these comments. And so I really appreciate all of the effort that the public went to respond, and we'll probably get more creative ideas. And again, it's very early, so I appreciate, Kyle, you mentioning that. I hope the public understands that. And I also hope they understand that we are reading their comments and might be able to put into place some of these interesting ideas that they've had.
And I think in reading the comments, and I went through all of them, there's not a total understanding of how we fit into the county.
Yes, that's true too.
And I think that needs to be clarified. There's some, I thought was a misunderstanding that if we were a county agency, we would be better off.
Right.
But so that they just don't understand.
Right.
And I think we need to do a better job in doing that. Yes.
Just wanted to ask to just make just absolutely crystal clear what this board's position on this is. Does everybody here believe that there is not a single person on the board that supports a single one of these cuts? Is that a true statement?
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. Take a roll call. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I had a question, just a
Yes.
process question. There's months until we're gonna understand how this really goes.
Oh, yeah.
Between now and then, are we committed to this list? If 3 months from now, we realize that we could do some X and say, wait, here's a better solution. I mean, are we literally locking ourselves into, here's the only thing we can do?
I mean, I think these are ongoing conversations that we're going to be having with DMB. I mean, I guess there's two parts to your question. No, I'm not going to throw up something that you guys haven't seen before and do a bait and switch on things. I know, but you know, there might come an issue where they found in that list of stuff that we can't cut because it's money that we owe over to the county. I mean, they can decide that we don't pay as much for legal or whatever it is, in which case I'm not gonna say no to those cuts because those aren't cuts that we could have put forth at the same time. I will say that there is, you know, with the nature center, and I just want to reiterate to what Linwood had said, that goes for staff as well. So we're in constant conversations with Sarah's in the conversation. There's nothing on that list that we're not fighting for ourselves. And we're putting a very fine point on when they're crunching the numbers on which ones actually impact our staff and jobs specifically. And so I just want to make that, you know, very clear, but we'll be coming back as that comes up. If anybody is actually talking about the option of closing center, we'd have to come back because we did not name it. We did that on purpose because that would create a whole other conversation there. So that would be a thing. And that would probably December, January, but we're months away from sort of knowing that. But the projections are continuing to come in. So one of my directors matters, I'll continue to update on what the county executive says and the budget committees are talking about as that's progressing, and we'll know closer to really what kind of a situation the
Let me
county.
try and ask it another way then. Is the county executive and the budget team, because I know it's not just him. As they go through this, are they gonna say, we'll take 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, or are they gonna say, we looked at this, we think it's these, but we need you, you know, it's this much money. And if over the next 4 months, somebody in the community sends an email that has this great idea that does a whatever, are we precluded from looking at that budget option because of the decision we're making tonight?
I think I understand. They are gonna do A, B, C. We're gonna be in conversations with that because they're not just gonna take them. We're gonna be talking, Sarah's gonna be in the room saying, this is the impact of all of that, kind of stuff. You can't beg from Peter to pay Paul if you want to fund maintenance, but you're gonna take the $4 million in maintenance money. It doesn't really work that way. But I don't believe that I'm looking at her, I don't believe last time there was anything new that was cut, and we might not, we can look into it.
No, I'm just saying.
For
if
the
we
whole
come up
county,
with
no, I'm
things-
just saying, if the whole county, I think that what was submitted, there was not any go back and look at closing a library instead of, I don't think that was done.
There's an ongoing conversation that we're having with DMB about where they are, what their thoughts are.
Because if, like you said, there were some interesting ideas in the comments. If something comes in, somebody comes with an idea, it's not we have to wait till next year. We might be able to use it this year.
If there was a change to the list,
Yeah.
we would come back to you.
Yeah.
That would be
I-
realistic.
Yes, they will pick specific items out of the list to answer the first part of your question. The answer to the second part of your question, no, I think as long as we had a replacement, they'd be open to that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
It can't be, well, no, we don't want you to take this one anymore, but we don't have a plan B.
No, I got that, yeah.
Okay. Is there a consensus to move item 1 forward?
Yes.
Or consensus to move item 2 forward?
Yes.
That said, the budget committee is adjourned.
You're still up, Ken.
Know that. I used up my own time. Okay, and we'll call the Planning Development Committee to order. And turn it over to you all.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Torsha Bhattacharya, Division Director of the Stewardship and Planning Division. And Randall Farren will present the revisions to the McLean Crossing rezoning, the park proffers.
Thank you, Torsha. Good evening, members of the Park Board. Again, my name is Randall Farren. I'm the manager of the Park Planning Branch, and I'm here to present to you an action item that came from our development review section to review some park-related changes to a previously approved rezoning in Tysons. We're seeking Park Board consideration of the amended plans and possible endorsement of the changes. And I'll just note that we do have staff from the Department of Planning and Development, and the applicant's representatives are here this evening observing the discussion. Next slide, please. So to provide a brief history on this rezoning proposal, in May of 2013, the Park Authority Board endorsed the park commitments associated with the McLean Commons rezoning. This is a large mixed-use project located in the northeastern quadrant of the Tysons Urban Center and the Providence Supervisory District. At the time, the proposal proffered a 4+ acre community park and a full-size at-grade athletic field. Both were proposed for fee simple dedication to the Park Authority. In 2022, the applicant submitted a proffered condition amendment and concept development plan amendment with significant changes to the proffers and development plan, specifically pertaining to the park commitments. A private retail building has been added to the northwestern portion of Anderson Park, and we'll show you a graphic in a moment. And the area to be dedicated has been reduced from 4.35 acres to 3.15 acres. Goodman Field is now proposed as a rooftop field atop a parking and retail structure. And these significant plan revisions require Park Authority Board consideration and endorsement before this case can go forward to Planning Commission public hearing and the Board of Supervisors. Next slide, please. This slide depicts the approved development plan from 2013 that was previously endorsed by the Park Board. The park at the top of this image here, north of Anderson Road, is the 4.35 acre common green park that was approved for dedication to the Park Authority following construction. And then along the eastern side of the site, that's on the right of the image, you'll see the at-grade athletic field that was also proposed for dedication to the Park Authority following its construction. Next slide, please. And this slide depicts the plan revisions in the 2022 amendment. You'll see Building 9 has been added to the east side of Anderson Park. And this is proposed to be a private retail use, but the applicant has expressed their intent to make sure that this use is complementary to the park and that it activates the park usage. So something like a cafe, brewery, food hall, something like that. The 3.15 acres are still proposed for dedication to the Park Authority. The area directly surrounding Building 9 would remain a privately owned public space. So it would remain a publicly accessible park space, but it would be privately owned. And this is so the Park Authority wouldn't be responsible for wear and tear more associated with the private use than associated with the use of the park. The at-grade athletic field has been reimagined as a rooftop concept overtop a parking garage and retail uses. The proffer statement includes a framework for the division of maintenance responsibilities between the Park Authority and the applicant. This would be refined prior to field construction at a later date. The leasing model is yet to be determined, but would likely involve a long-term lease to the Park Authority for a nominal fee and establishment of a public access easement over the field. Next slide, please.
Before you go to the next,
Dedication to FCPA.
before you go to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
Make sure I heard one thing correctly in the question. The Anderson Park, 3.15 acre, privately owned, public access.
No, so the kind of the right 3/4 of the park on this image would still be dedicated to the Park Authority. It's only the area directly around Building 9 that would be retained in private
Okay.
ownership.
Got it, all right. And then the lease piece of this. The original plan, would it have been leased to us?
No, it was a fee simple dedication at grade field.
So why are we talking, even for a nominal fee? Why are we talking about a lease?
So the Tyson's Park System concept plan does include encouragement of kind of creative ways of addressing the athletic field needs in Tyson's. I know we've discussed this previously. The plan anticipates 20 athletic fields in the Tyson's Urban Center. And, kind of considering the scarcity of land there, rooftop fields are kind of anticipated as a way of addressing that need in a kind of a more urban context. So that's why. I mean, it's just a kind of a different way of making sure that the athletic field needs are met in Tyson's. But it's a different approach.
So we wouldn't want to,
Wait,
Sure.
but the original plan,
Mhm.
we got a field dedicated to us free and clear. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's the way it was proffered originally, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
now we are paying for the same field, however nominal it may be. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, we may be talking like $1 for a 100-year
Okay.
lease, something like
Fair
that.
enough.
Yes.
the reason we would still, the fact that it's on top of a not at grade parking facility, we don't want to own it.
Okay.
Because you can't own, we would basically be owning
The
air
whole
rights
thing, exactly.
over top of a parking garage, and who's in charge? Our field irrigation system leaks into the
Okay,
thing, who does what?
okay.
That makes sense.
And I'd also point out a rooftop field would be a good thing. We need, in order to make things.
I don't
work-
care where they put
No,
the
no,
field.
but I'm just saying, in order to make things work long-term, we need basketball courts on top of shopping center. We need to be looking for creative solutions like this,
We
which
can put
probably,
it underground for all I care. My question was about the lease.
which probably means
changes.
more leases and things like this
that's-
in order to
that's
make it
fine.
work.
Well, so the field was actually going to be at grade, but now it's going to be on the top of a roof. I mean, there are some differences in the quality of that in terms of, I mean, the way this whole area is gonna appear, the accessibility. I mean, you're not gonna get kids just, running onto the field to play, right? Because they would have to like go up a building. I mean, their parents are not gonna let them go up a building to go.
It's an adult.
It's not a, it's
So-
not a, it's not
Adults
a
and
5-story roof. It's like a slant, like and we can get into it. There's like a terrace and there's a way of ramping onto the roof. I mean, we're describing it as if it's like a skyscraper. It's not a skyscraper. You're not getting an
It's more
elevator.
like a one-story
going
building
up.
than a 5-story building.
Right,
Yes.
yes, yeah. And there are actually, there are sides of the field that are at grade.
Yes.
So
Are they
Um,
giving us something else to make up for what is not as good of a park? Because I mean, having a field on top of of a building, even if it's one story, is way hotter. I mean, it's for kids, if you're sending your kid or if you're an adult out there playing, if you're an older person trying to play a sport, it's way hotter up there. So I mean, it's strange, it's odd that they would give us something less than what they had originally promised and not try to make up for it in some other way.
So just to provide a little bit of kind of historical context. So this was approved prior to the adoption of the Tyson's Tyson's Park System Concept Plan. So kind of the expectations for what creates a need for a full-size field and how much park space is anticipated on site to address the need being generated by the development had not been finely tuned yet. So they are actually still providing kind of more park space than they would be anticipated to under the standards that were adopted a couple of years later. So this is kind of right sizing it as relative to other larger mixed use rezonings in Tyson's. I mean, I think that the point stands that we are getting less. We are getting less. But relative to other similar rezonings in Tyson's, it is, and the fact that there is still a fairly large fee simple dedication to the park authority, it is a better deal to us than a lot of similarly sized developments we've seen in Tyson's over the last 10 years or so.
This type of action is not unexpected. I've been involved in Tyson since day one. And when all this was being contemplated, designed, put into a visual, we knew things were like this were going to happen. And as of right now, I personally doubt there will be 20 fields. There's not room for 20 fields. We have to use the rooftop concepts or get commitments outside of Tyson's. We want to concentrate on getting commitments in Tyson's, but there's only so much land, as you just pointed out. And this is one option that we've looked at. Yes.
Again, also, I think that the economic environment has changed in terms of use of properties within a high density area like Tyson's. Certainly, the office market has changed, and so we potentially see these changes coming into a developer's proposals.
Yes.
I think this is a great solution that virtually makes us whole in terms of the field and the parkland. So I'm very encouraged by this.
But that's the point. And Joanna's point, we're not whole. We're obligated to act in the best interest of the park authority. And what we're getting now is not equal in value to what we had, whether the rules have changed or not. So something, in my opinion, should be done to try to make it an even straight swap. And the easiest way to do that is attach some dollar figure and contribute it to the park authority somewhere else in Tyson's or something like that. So we stay whole, because the bottom line point is we're not whole with this change.
Well, that was contemplated early on too. And again, as far as getting someplace else in Tyson's, that's a problem, because there's not much space to build.
Wait until we deal
But-
with diamonds.
Huh?
Spend
Well,
the dollars somewhere else then, but
well, that's what I'm,
we have an obligation to keep the park.
no, I'm
authority
not
whole.
saying that. There is an option that we can require a commitment outside of Tyson's.
All
We
I'm
try
saying
not
is
to do that.
Park authority,
For the
this
field.
board should make
Field.
decisions that keep the
Yes.
park authority whole,
Yeah.
and this proposal doesn't keep the park authority.
I just want to get us on, I don't believe we have a legal mechanism to require them to pay anything else. We could not do, we could talk about, and this doesn't preclude, they're not ready. I'm gonna speak for, this is not shovel ready, right? They're in the audience. Right? They're not developing this right now. So but they have to get through this approval to get to the next step. But there's nothing in the voting thing that can require them to go above and beyond what they're required to do within the master plan. The Anderson, correct me if I'm wrong, the Anderson Park fulfills
And that's
their,
what we're trying to get to, is the original value
the
of
field
master
wasn't
plan.
part of that. The field wasn't part of, the original intent of them was different than what's required for
That's
the,
changed. Right.
we can't require above and beyond what's required of the plan.
I just think if you're, I'm thinking about this from the perspective of a resident in the area.
Mhm.
And if you've seen the previous concept plan, which had a plan for, you know, a little bit of relief in this area of a lot of buildings and a lot of concrete and a lot of asphalt, then you see this revision, it's not going to surprise you that the developer would like to make this change. What's going to surprise you is that the park authority decided when they didn't have to say yes to it. So, I mean, if we could you tell me, like, if we say no, that goes into the Board of Supervisors and they can, you know, come send it back to us? Or, I mean, how does that work?
So I think that what we're mixing the planning commission's role and our role in this. That's the planning commission's role in general. And I think that we can possibly attach language possibly to the approval that goes with the thing to encourage them to be looking at something specific. I don't know, and we don't have lawyers in the room, but I don't know that we can. I mean, you can vote to not approve it, but I don't think we can attach anything that goes above and beyond.
Oh, no, I was just going back to the original of approve or disapprove.
Right.
I mean, I'm just trying to think common sense to a normal person on the street. Does it make sense that a park authority board member would approve this? I'm not at the moment, not sure. If there was something that was happening that was actually, as you were talking about, made us whole, then I could see where the common sense person on the street would say, oh, it makes sense that they approve that. But at the moment, it puts the community in a worse off situation.
Miranda, what's the actual approval language? Did you read off what we're asking for?
So it's actually just the endorsement. It's the recommended endorsement of the proposed concept plan.
It's an endorsement. It's not a vote of approval.
Right, yes, and
Endorsement, and then the BOS gets to decide what they want.
It sets the precedent. So when we were talking about how we're concerned we're not going to get fields elsewhere in Tyson's, I mean, the farther we go with this, that sets a precedent for future.
Well, we're
I mean,
getting the same fields.
Anyone is free to vote no when it comes up this evening as part of the formal board.
Right.
So we stop the presentation. then
Look like you have more
somebody-
information.
Sure. Well, no, I mean, I guess just what I'll say is that, you know, as others have noted, the original approval came in a different context, came in a different planning context, different economic context. So I don't believe we don't own the field outright right now. It has not been dedicated to us. That has not been triggered. So if it's no longer a economically viable project, then we may never get the field anyway, right? So it's not so much like us giving up a field that we already own. It's swapping out a different, and again, it's up to you all. It's up to your judgment whether or not that's something that you want to endorse, or it's something that the Park Authority Board is willing to take on. And then that information would all be taken to the Planning Commission of the Board of Supervisors as part of the kind of suite of outstanding issues that they'll be considering and whether or not to approve or disapprove this. So
They have agreed to do something in the past. That's the benchmark. We need to stay at that benchmark. We're moving backwards right now. They have agreed to the benchmark, whether the standards have changed or not. It was negotiated and obligated before.
Can I also ask you, what's there now?
I actually haven't been out to that portion of the site.
It's like small buildings.
Apartments, so it's all the McLean Commons, right? That's all part of the McLean Commons apartments, so.
And again, in the negotiation throughout this, I mean, I'll just choose whatever, we're already late. You know, I take a fraction of the money that it would cost to build a field on top of a parking garage to do fields in the surrounding. I mean, there's still stuff that can happen because this field is not a requirement of their, how do I explain that?
That's my
Okay,
point.
yes.
We need to get something to get ourselves back to zero and spend it somewhere else. Whether it's in Tyson's or not, we need to stay whole. We're obligated as a board to keep the Park Authority whole, and we're not whole with this plan.
Like,
So-
again,
Can I just, what are we losing
Acre and a quarter,
of land that we own?
and the field that we would
And a field that
take care of.
was better.
That's the okay.
I also think it's important to remember that there's a factor at play here that we have zero control over. And that is that we have in the past talked about the fact that building fields in Tyson's is extraordinarily expensive in terms of land costs and everything else, because it's not just the cost of the diamond, it's the parking lot next to the diamond, and it's the, oh, wait, what if I could build my 20-story building there? And when we have talked to the Board of Supervisors about, hey, what if we took literally the money for 1.5 diamond fields would have paid for Patriot? Just outright, you'd have paid all of Patriot Park. The Board of Supervisors said, absolutely not. We need to try and put the fields in Tyson's, even if it is more expensive. So taking it and putting it outside was, and maybe over time, there will be opportunities to modify that decision-making and think about those options. But we don't get to make the decision, oh, wait, let's, instead of doing a field on top of this building, do 4 fields, 1.5 miles outside of the Tyson's area somewhere else. That's, we don't get that option.
No, and that's on purpose.
Right, I know. That's why I'm saying, we don't get it.
And Mike, actually, you brought up a good point, which is parking. I mean,
Yeah.
I would feel a lot better about this if the parking for people that are playing on the field in the garage was free. Because obviously, if, let's say we had an in-grade field there, it'd be really hard to find a parking spot to play, right? But if, it would make sense that, okay, now there's a parking garage under the field, so therefore, when I'm playing on the field, I have a place to park. That would make more sense to me. So that question of whether the park goers would have to pay for their parking, I think would be.
I don't know how you would differentiate them and how to figure that out. What I do know is that all around the world, kids play on top of buildings, on fields on top of buildings. They have no problem getting up to them.
I
They
mean, at
play
this
on
point,
them.
we are getting way outside our
Yeah,
purview.
yeah.
You have nothing new to provide, right?
What's that?
I was asking you, you don't have anything new information to provide at this point?
No.
So, okay,
This will come before us, during our formal discussion. People can decide to.
Well, I do have additional slides, but yes, so
sorry.
that's, yeah, no, I
What's your
mean,
presentation.
yeah, sure.
yeah,
Next slide, thanks.
try not
Still
to.
need a consensus.
So just to go through kind of where we've been and where the process would go from here. So again, in 2013 was the original Park Authority Board endorsement and Board of Supervisors approval of the approval of the rezoning. And the applicant submitted the PCA request in 2022. Since 2022, we've been working with the applicant to improve their plan, and they have been working diligently with us and in good faith to address our major outstanding concerns. We are continuing to work with them to refine design concepts and minor outstanding issues. Parking is actually something that we are still in discussion with them about ahead of PCN board consideration, but we are very early in the process still in terms of kind of the potential delivery of these facilities. So after approval, the applicant will still have to submit final development plans detailing park facilities and amenities in greater detail. Delivery of both parks will depend on the entitlement and construction project. According to the proffers, would occur no later than 2040. And the future dedication of Anderson Park and the execution of any sort of memorandum of agreements related to Goodman Field would also come back before the Park Authority Board for approval, separate of this. Next slide, please. So this evening, we are seeking Park Board input on regarding the changes in the size and the ownership structure of the proposed parks. Specifically seeking your endorsement of the two major revisions to the park concepts. One is the reduction in the area of Anderson Park to be dedicated from 4.35 acres to 3.15 acres, and the reconceptualization of Goodman Field from a standard at-grade facility to a rooftop facility that would be operated by the Park Authority but privately owned. Next slide, please.
We already.
Now.
The question.
I think we pretty well covered that one.
Just say for one thing, given the conversation that happened, is there a way that this can be, I don't know, condensed in some form to go to the planning commission, so at least aware of the conversation that happened? Is that something that we
Yes.
can do? Because I mean, beyond that, if people are concerned or don't like this, they're free to reach out to the planning commission and talk to them, but our decision is just to endorse or not. We don't have any
Why wouldn't we, when we vote on it a little while, just add a small one sentence thing that uses the word kept hold or something,
Because you-
kept whole or
There
something
might not be
like
six
that?
people who are interested in that. They might.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
We'd have to go
that
back
end,
and, we couldn't do that now. We'd have to get the language. We can't just vote on that now without legal, and we don't know how much, huh?
All he's saying is sorry.
You're,
I'm
sorry,
doing my
I'm very
hands.
close to you right now.
Yeah, you're usually over
I'm
there
usually
standing.
way over there.
I think all Linwood is asking for is that that was the message that got communicated to the. planning
You can be
commission.
general, say that we'd like to, we'd like to
we
submit.
support
a
the
thing.
concept
Yes.
as long as the park authority is kept whole.
Yeah, that's what we can't put into the
Why?
thing, because I don't know that whether or not we can do that or not. I need to consult with.
We can ask.
Find out though.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yes.
maybe,
No, what would
maybe the
preclude us from
words,
Asking that of the planning commission.
maybe the words, and I don't know that I would vote for this, but maybe the words are, we would encourage them to try and keep us whole. Not, we endorse it on the condition of, in other words, you don't, by creating that proactive condition, we create a legal issue, which I think is what Jay's getting to, whereas
Yes.
if we use encourage, we can.
Something vague, but
Vague
to the
about
point,
it.
we can create language to send out, but
We
I
can
can't be
worry
very
about that
specific.
when we get to.
No,
the meetings.
that makes us mushy.
See, that's, you guys,
You know.
we can bring it back, but I can't.
Maybe we discuss that when it comes up in the board meeting.
That's what I'm trying to get at. This will formally come up in 20 minutes or something when we get
That's
there
right.
in the board.
You'll have another
So
opportunity.
we can do this all over again.
So sorry, but I have another question. You mentioned that the requirements have changed in the area for how much green space is provided. Do you have a sense of how much less? Like if, let's say we don't, I mean, I know this is not gonna happen because I've heard the voices, but let's say we don't endorse it and then the planning commission decides to not approve it. What would, if the development doesn't happen and someone else comes in to develop it, what would they be required to provide? Like how many acres?
So pretty similar to what they're providing here. A total of, I think it's just about 7 acres. So they've exceeded, they haven't far exceeded what the urban parks framework calls for, but they have exceeded it. So if someone came in with a fresh rezoning concept, it would be a similar amount of park space.
Okay, well, we will have another chance at the board meeting to talk about this. But is there consensus to move it forward to the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2.
Thank you.
Is there another thing?
There's another thing?
That's it, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, no, that's not. we're
No,
not doing
that's
that.
not
Number 2 is
happening.
done.
Is it all too
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we're not doing that.
Do that?
Jay, he
I'm
prints
pretty
out
sure they
his,
don't want to do that.
Prints out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, nothing else come before the committee, the planning development committee is adjourned.
All right, we'll be in recess for 10 or 15 minutes or so, so we can eat before we come back in and do the formal board meeting. So see you guys in 15.
There is one of these days.
All right. Anybody wants Brazil nuts, come over here.
And like, so-
Right here available for you. if You want to switch.
All right, we are live, so if everybody could quiet down just a little bit. How much it is 7:50, Wednesday, September 25th. I call the Park Authority Board meeting to order. Ben, I think we've got a few guests here with us this
Thank
evening.
you, Mr. Chairman. We have Girl Scout Troop 50126, otherwise known as the Pickles, and they have asked to come and address the board this evening.
Are you guys dill pickles or sweet pickles? All pickles? Okay. Where are the,
As long as it's not pickleball.
where are the pickles from? Where are the pickles from?
From Vienna?
Most of them go to Wolf Trap Elementary.
All right. Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, step to the mic. You're good to go.
Hello, we are members of Troop 50126. We are 5th graders at Wolf Trap Elementary in Vienna. We call ourselves the Pickles, and when someone yells pickles, we all come in for a group hug. We also wrote our own song about pickles and how much we love our troop and being Girl Scouts. We are very active scouts. We meet twice a month and twice a month and work on badges, service projects, and other skills. Today, we are here to talk to you about our Bronze Award project. The Bronze Award is the highest award a Girl Scout junior can earn.
To earn this award, we each spend 20 hours working on a sustainable project. We are calling our project Pickles Pick Up the Parks.
We have noticed a lot of trash in the parks behind our school. They are called Waverly and Foxstone Parks. We spent just 1 hour picking up trash there and collected 10 bags of trash. Because of this, we are trying to get more trash cans in parks and at least one trash can in every park in Fairfax County.
We'd also like to add signs to parks reminding people to not litter.
To help spread the word about Pickles Pick Up the Park, we are working at Vienna Farmers Market over 2 weekends to share our project. We want to tell people about the trash we found, but also about our mission to clean up. On October 27th, we are leading a community pickup cleanup. We will be meeting at 2 p.m. at the Clark's Crossing W&OD parking lot and go west on the trail to collect trash. We hope you and others from the community can join us. We have started an online petition and have 104 signatures. This means people in the community also want to see more trash cans in parks. We know it is easy to install a trash can, but the hard part is to get someone to collect it. We also know that if people see a trash can or no one is nearby, they are more likely to throw their trash away.
This is especially true on the bike trail since people are out there exercising.
If there isn't a convenient place to stash their trash, they might just litter. We also notice a lot of dog food bags in the parks and on the trails. Without more trash cans in parks, people will continue to litter, and this causes harm to animals and our ecosystem. Because of this, we are trying to get more trash cans in parks. It is important to keep our parks free of litter to keep animals healthy. Plus, we've also seen a lot of glass in parks.
Glass causes an even bigger issue, as it could injure an animal's foot and it could get infected.
And lots of kids like to play in streams barefoot in the summer, and we don't want glass cutting their feet either. For all of these reasons, we would like you to consider adding more trash cans to the Fairfax County parks. Our mission is to get at least one trash can in every park, and we need your help to do it. Please consider adding at least one additional trash can in Waverly Park. We spend lots of time there, and many people use that park to walk, commute, and enjoy. If Waverly Park isn't an option, more trash cans along the WOD trail would be helpful for Fairfax County residents and other trail users alike. Please join Pickles Pick Up the Parks and help us decrease litter so everyone can safely enjoy our Fairfax County parks.
We hope we can count on you to support a cleaner environment for everyone.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming out. Could someone repeat for the record the date and time and location of your pickup? Your cleanup, excuse me?
October 27th. October 27th, 2024,
From when to when?
2 to 3.
2 to 3, 2 to 4? And at what park? Waverly?
Foxstone.
Okay. Ben, are we able to kind of get the word out for that through our channels? Great, thank you very much.
For the record, we shifted it to the WNOD Trail, starting at the Clark's Crossing parking lot and going west. Because we met some ladies who clean up Waverly and Foxstone parks 3 times a week while they walk.
Okay.
So we needed to find more trash.
I'm sure that unfortunately it's not our.
I'm
fault.
sure
That's-
Nova Parks will appreciate it.
Yes, we'll let Paul Gilbert know.
Oh, no.
Is this the entire troop with us this evening? How many of them are you? 13, and you guys said you had to do 20 hours to do this bronze? Each, so that's what, 260 hours? So just to keep that in mind, everyone here, that's 260 volunteer hours. That is a huge lift. Thank you all very, very much for that. Anybody have anything for our group? Thank you, guys.
We could probably find a picture with them.
Right, we're gonna do that. That's what Ben's getting ready to remind me of, that we're doing a picture.
We'll have to communicate this to Supervisor Alcorn, which I will do.
Okay, let him know. Good. Maybe we'll get Supervisor Alcorn out there on the 27th.
Well, if we had done this first, then we could have saved a lot of time on our budget ask. They could have done it for me. They did it far more entertainingly.
So yes, the Pickles have asked for a photograph with the board. So this is a full house. So what we'd like to do is have the Girl Scouts come here into the center, and if we could get members of the board, if you wouldn't mind standing up and kind of in the background there, that would be fantastic. The Park Authority Board brunch. So yeah, go ahead and come on through here. Yep, right through here. Just be careful of the little step minute.
Kind of step back.
Being a Girl Scout dangerous?
All right, now.
Well,
Go in the middle. It's always good.
okay, all right.
Well, you won't be able to see her.
Yeah, there you go. When you sit that right to the wall there. All right, and then we'll have you come forward right here.
With the chair.
Right. I think that'll do. Everyone look good? Everyone talking there, have cameras?
Okay. Everybody say pickles. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, there's more down.
All clearly ready for homework and bedtime.
And 3, 2, 1, pickles. Excellent. And Jay, would you like to take a selfie with the group?
Oh, I would love to.
I don't have my phone. I love selfies.
Hold on, I gotta borrow somebody's phone.
They're all supposed to hug. There was no hugging.
I know.
Oh.
It's because 3 of them are damaged right now.
Excellent.
All right, you guys ready?
Something that I do, so you guys know.
She does this everywhere.
Okay, now be excited. I'm 3. Ready? 1, where's that pickle? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
Reminded me.
I'm really bad at IT too, but yes. We'll send it, announce it, I'll send it.
It'll be in the next Directors Matters.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, can't be mine. No, I'm moving out of the way.
I'm
I wanted to like. Yeah. Like your girl.
And I have a 23 and 26-year-old daughter. The one.
I hate my dad. I gotta.
You had one.
Ben, do we have any other visitors or speakers this evening?
No, sir, no further speech.
All right, we'll get right into it. Administrative item number 1 is the recommended adoption of the minutes of the September 11, 2024 Park Authority Board meeting.
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 1 in the Hunter Mill District is a recommended approval of Mastonbrook grant award in the amount of $20,000 self-funded project to install fencing for fields 1 and 4 at Lake Fairfax Park. Do I have a motion?
We'll move.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. In the Providence District, action item number 2 is a recommended endorsement of the proposed concept plan and proffer revisions to RZ 2011 PR 017. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I've got the
So we, in a
Discussion.
second.
And we have a second, so now we can hear any substitutes or discussion.
I think you guys already know what I'm gonna say. I'd like to add some language, that, talks about somehow, keeping the park authority whole, that the current, arrangement is, equal to, community benefit and park authority benefit to the, original ones. And, I advocate for this because I know one thing for absolute 100% certain is if we don't ask for it, we won't get it. So I encourage an amendment to, add some language that's appropriate to that end.
Okay, do we have a second to Linwood's motion?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this substitute motion? Beyond what Linwood already said, okay. So then we'll move Linwood. Do we want to be precise about the language, or are we okay with Linwood's guidance and then staff based on that, what he just said, can craft something? Is people comfortable with that, or do we want to have the
That's
exact
my,
language?
that's my intent.
Okay, okay. All right, hearing that, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Let's do a roll call on this one. Faisal, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Aye, so
Nay.
somebody counting before we go any further, okay? Avida,
In favor.
Bill,
Yes.
Tim? Cynthia,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Jonah,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Linwood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the chair votes nay, but I think the ayes have it. Okay, so the substitute motion passes. Is now the main motion, but I think we're good, right? We don't have to do that again. Someone better at this than I am.
No, you're back to the main motion, which has already been moved and seconded.
Seconded. Okay, so I guess we'll just vote.
You're back in discussion.
Any
on that.
further discussion, I guess.
Further discussion.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, do we need to vote again?
Yes,
Yes.
So the original motion has been amended.
Okay,
exactly.
Now the
And
motion
now-
is to endorse or not.
and not endorse. Okay,
With the amendment.
with the amendment. All right, so we now have a motion, right? We now have a motion on the floor to endorse or not with the language that has been adopted. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right.
Nay.
Do you have the nays?
Do it roll call.
All right, let's do a roll call again. Faisal? Aye or nay? Aye. Mike?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
We're not endorsing. You're endorsing it with that?
With the change. yeah. Okay.
Okay, you got the count? All right, and I assume the ayes have it? Okay, all right, moving on. Countywide action item number 3 is the recommended approval of the FY 2026 non-recommended general fund budget reduction submissions.
So moved.
All, any discussion on this? I guess the only thing I will say on this one for anyone listening in the future is these are non-recommended cuts. We are not doing this happily, eagerly, and only doing it because we have to. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Countywide action item number 4 is the recommended, excuse me, approval of the FY 2026 general fund budget request submission.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, 3 information items this evening. Information item number 1 is the land exchange for Langley Fork Park is presented to and reviewed by the Planning and Development Committee on September 11, 2024. Information item 2 is the FY 26 non-recommended general fund budget reduction is presented to and reviewed by the Budget Committee on September 11. Information item number 3 is the FY 2026 Budget Submission Fund 1001 General Fund as presented to you and reviewed by the Budget Committee on September 11th. Chairman's Matters, got 2 things this evening. First, just a reminder, I said this last meeting, I'm saying it again, we have the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, December 10th and 9:30 a.m. Agenda is still being worked out on that, and as we get something actually gets developed there, we'll be sure to share that with you. And the other thing is we have an announcement of a Federation of Friends meeting to be held on November 6th, right, Allison? 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Green Springs Garden. We have the start of an agenda right now, but as that gets finalized, we'll pass that around as well. But again, November 6th, 5:30, 7:30, Green Springs Garden, hoping to see a few of you there. Jay.
The magic has to happen for me to know there we go. Okay. Okay. Next slide. So the crowd goes wild for Budweiser Clydesdales and Dalmatians. So the Clydesdales were here for the 4th of July, I believe. I informed you guys of that. They come and they board with us often, but this time the Budweiser Clydesdales team makes hundreds of appearances across the country each year. When it comes to finding suitable accommodations for this gargantuan team of horses, Frying Pan Farm Park rates as a 5-star hotel. So their last stopover was Tuesday, September 17th. Budweiser graciously agreed to host a meet and greet, which drew more than 4,500 visitors, over 3,000 cars to Frying Pan Farm Park. We want to thank everyone at Frying Pan Farm Park for their excellent management of such a popular event on very short notice. We look forward to welcoming the Clydesdales anytime they're in town. I will say, I am a neighbor of Frying Pan, and it was the buzz of the neighborhood that it was almost like running through, the Clydesdales are here, the Clydesdales are here. And so are you going? It's like we saw them when they were here for the 4th of July, but they come a lot, but this was a really great event, and they're huge and beautiful. Next slide. Native American Heritage at Riverbend Park. We hosted our 24th Virginia Native American Festival with more than 900 attendees. We were joined by representatives of Rappahannock, Chickamaugamany, Mattapony, and Upper Mattapony tribes. We had instrumental and dance performances, authentic craft exhibits, hands-on demonstrations, and activities. This year, we added a new exhibit with Deborah Adams of the Upper Mattapony tribe, showcasing her handmade traditional gourds used to carry food, water, and as fish floats. Always a wonderful event. I had to miss it this year because I was out of town, but it's really is a wonderful time on the river.
The date. When was that?
It already happened. It was
Yeah, when did it happen?
it was September 14th.
And Supervisor Bierman and his son JJ also
Yes.
joined us.
Next slide. Salsa in the Park was a hit in Herndon. I'm glad there's no photos of me salsaing in the park, but this couple on the right, they were killing it. Like this on the middle right, they were like the best. Park Authority partnered with Supervisor Bierman, Opportunity Neighborhoods, and Defensores de la Cuenca, thank you, Watershed Defenders to celebrate Latino Conservation Week, and with the park activation at Alabama Drive Park in Herndon. The event was presented in English and Spanish and included dancing, handmade salsa and chips, games and exhibits around environmentally friendly practices and community resource connections. Our Wonder Wagon was there. The top photo of the little girl in the tie-dye is my daughter, Hannah, who was running around and doing all of the things. And we literally shut it down when I thought I was going to be there for a half an hour. That was not happening. It was dark and I helped carry everything off. I was one of the last people there because she was having such a great time. It was an inaugural event, and I probably say it's not the last, but it was really great at Alabama Drive. Next slide. Remembering Historic Oak Hill. The Park Authority joined with Supervisor Walkinshaw, the History Commission, the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust, and Braceland family. The day included tours of the historic Oak Hill house that was built in 1790 and the grounds, and there were exhibits on the lower lawn. New this year was a panel discussion hosted by author Tom Shoup, speaking about the rich history of the Wakefield area. Again, thanks to our amazing staff, volunteers, and partners. This is a unique situation where the Oak Hill House is not on parkland, but because of its historic nature, we are heavily involved in things like the requirement for it to be open, but this is always a very popular event. You were there, were you there?
I was
You were
there.
there, and sorry, and Kyle.
Yeah, and Kyle.
And Kyle Stone. Next slide. So the VRPS, Virginia Recreation and Park Society Awards. This is where I was during the Native American Festival. We won 2 awards, one for the most creative marketing strategy for Skate the Wake. Marketing to the skating community included an innovative mix of approaches featuring branded communications and promos, video, social media, celebrity guests, and local national partners. It was rained out twice, if you remember. And so we kind of worried there. So it was, even though it was planned, it was a little bit of a spur of the moment thing because we had to move it twice in order to get it to the date. And despite that, there were still over 250 attendees. Word reached tens of thousands across the metro area. And there was the new buzz throughout the skating community. And remember, we were targeting not our normal clientele. So to get that many people with kids and their skateboards and everything, it's really great. That photo at the top left is the team. Sarah was also intricately involved. She couldn't make it out to Wakefield to take the photo. So thank you to all of the amazing staff who did Skate the Wake, and the t-shirt on the top left. We also won for Best New Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative for Parks on Ice. That's the new initiative that introduces synthetic ice rinks to, and we had that at Earth Day and at the 2023 Rec Pack summer camps to serve children in opportunity areas and let them experience ice skating in the summer. Parks on Ice eliminated barriers to participation and created a supportive environment for kids to explore this new activity in a welcoming community environment. I will say, and what is the gentleman's name, Laura? Do you know the artificial ice name? What's his name? Do you know? The gentleman who does the artificial ice is a really, do you know his name?
I don't know his name, but he donates everything.
He donates everything.
Really?
He goes out and he had the skates and people didn't have socks and he went out and bought socks. He is a phenomenal partner with us, and it is just a great event. If you were at Earth Day, they had it at Earth Day. It really does feel like you're ice skating, and it's just there's these panel boards. So you get on, the kids get on, and you are ice skating on artificial type ice. But he is a really great partner, and I'm sorry, I probably should have asked his name beforehand. Next slide. Okay, really quickly, because Kyle had asked before, this is not a parks event thing, but I just wanted to run you guys through on the screen the new org chart. We made it that one couple of changes. You met Torsia. I introduced her last time and then she spoke here. So I just wanted to sort of explain in live video form kind of the new organization. So obviously I'm still there and we have Amy and Sarah. So under Sarah is now all of the operations side. So Josh in Park Services, Kim, Resource Management and Interpretation, which is a new division that has all of the sites and the lakefronts. So now all of the historical, natural resource museums, everything is under their golf. And then business administration, so budget is under Sarah. So all of operations is under one side. On the other side, under Amy, is stewardship and planning, which is the new division that Torsia is, which is planning, natural resources, cultural resources, and acquisitions, land acquisitions. We saw park development with Brendan, the Park Foundation, and Marcom, marketing and communications, Deidria. So that's how those two have split, with the intent of trying to keep planning over with development, but still get the sites under with in line with the rest of operations. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Cindy, is that Cindy Walsh?
We try to kick her out. She just keeps on coming back. No, she's
Part-timer.
She's a part-time. She came back to.
Okay.
She's working directly under Sarah right now in the director's office. She's managing our office reorg move. What's it called?
Space
planning.
planning and a million other special projects.
Yes.
You're done.
That's. Thank you very much for Amy and Allison. That was a literally asked them 12 minutes ago to put that in there. Kyle asked.
Can we get a copy of that email? Yes, please.
Okay, I was gonna.
Yes,
send you-
yes, copy.
Good deal. All right. Ken, anything from you?
And pass.
Linwood? On?
I'm planning on spending my Saturday on National Public Lands Day at White Gardens. I know some other folks are gonna be over at Franconia. But I want to thank the staff at Green Springs, staff at headquarters, as well as the Friends groups for putting something together at White Gardens. It really needs to be touched a lot more tenderly than we've touched it in the past.
Ben, I should have mentioned this during mine, but I don't know the dates and times off the top of my head. When, where, do you know, the official?
For National Public Land?
Yeah.
Yes, Saturday, September 28th at 9 AM at Franconia Park, outside Franconia Rec Center. We'll be doing a short commemoration, but we do have service projects planned in every magisterial district that are filling up. We'll be out and about all day, not all day, but in every district.
And would you let us all know where the,
Yeah,
where
we
the
can send out, with the email, we'll send the org chart,
Yeah.
a photo with the Girl Scout troop and the.
And location of all the projects and spectacular. Thank you very much. Jonah?
Just want to thank the Pickles Girl Scout troop for coming out to talk to us about trash. It was a great speech and it was great to see them.
Faisal? Michael?
I don't know where this would sit, but just looking at the org chart, is it possible? I don't think we've gotten a Marcom presentation in like 3 or 4 years. I mean, it may have been pre-COVID.
It's coming.
Okay.
I made.
I don't know where it's, I don't know if it's in the committee that Bill chairs and I don't know how, I don't know where it lives, but.
I made him wait. I asked very nicely if he would be so kind as to hold off and let Deidria have something to talk about, but that's coming.
I wasn't allowed to do anything for 6 months, so we're past.
For the record, he asked me a day after she started for her to come in and give an update on
I think I asked the day after that and he asked me to hold out.
But it is coming. Abner?
Okay.
Bill? Tim? Dr. Carter?
Yes. Parktoberfest. The EC Lawrence Parktoberfest, the Friends of EC Lawrence have been doing this for, I think, 5 years now. It's Saturday, October 5th, from about 10 until 4. There'll be beer and food and music and beer and plan to come. It'll be fun. That's it. Thank you so much.
All right, we have no closed session this evening. Do we have any other business before us? All right, then we are adjourned. See you guys online in 2 weeks.
This is crazy. I've never been at a park meeting. Everybody.
You know, maybe that means 6:30.